Greeting, dearest friends. This is Umema Asim from my very own YouTube channel, and I aim to post videos that are interesting, that are at least interesting to me. And since you have opened this video, I think it will be interesting to you once you start listening to it. So, the purpose that I aiming to create such videos is that this whole world where the reality of a being, or where the identity of a being is divided into a physical world and then a digital world, and then there is this huge river of information. I won't say river, it's a sea of information that you have to drink in order to survive among your peers. But because all this competition, and you would be nowhere, and the constant creation of this feeling of FOMO, which makes you wonder if you will survive without knowing things. Well, as the world has been going crazy over this competition over information and grasping information, I wanted to regulate myself, wanted to know what I really want to know, wanted to read what I want to read and not what the algorithm demands, or what the algorithm is making me read. I don't know if these things will benefit me in the worldly terms, but what I know is that these things that I will be uploading are very interesting, and they can make a person change their perspective about life. So whenever I am thinking narrowly or viewing things from a certain perspective, and in a situation which is nearly hopeless about life, I like to read about these things, and I like to wonder about questions which are not very worldly in their essence. So here is my little attempt to make you understand about other important or not so important things that you might like to know. One such person is Ibn Arabi. Let us tackle the question of what makes Ibn Arabi so compelling to read. I will ask you this: what makes a thinker so powerful that even after 8 centuries people still struggle to fully understand him? Why is it that most readers walk away from his work completely transformed, while others feel lost, confused, or even overwhelmed? Now, these feelings, I have been through each one of them while reading him and trying to understand him. But today, I and you, we are exploring the mind of Ibn Arabi, often called Shaykh al-Akbar, or the greatest master. And more importantly, we are answering one central question: what makes him so compelling to read? Let's start with something fundamental. Most thinkers give you answers, but what Ibn Arabi has to offer us is something very unnerving or unsettling. He changes the way you perceive reality itself. So, reality is not what you think it is. At the center of his thought is a powerful and often misunderstood idea of Wahdat al-Wujud, or the unity of being. Now, this is not just a theological claim, it is a complete reorientation of how existence works. According to Ibn Arabi, reality is not divided into separate independent parts. It is everything that exists. It is a manifestation of a single divine reality. This means that the world is not random. It is not meaningless, neither are you. It is not disconnected. Instead, it is layered. It is symbolic, and it is deeply interconnected. When you begin to see the world this way, even ordinary experiences start to feel different. Because now you are not just looking at things, you are looking through things. Ibn Arabi takes you beyond the surface level religion. Look, most religions are focused on rules and rituals and what is wrong or what is right. But Ibn Arabi pushes you beyond that. He asks, what is the inner reality behind these practices and what is the spiritual meaning behind the zahir or the outward form. For him, religion is not just something you perform, it is something that you perceive, and it is so natural. Now, he treats the world itself as a kind of divine text. It's full of signs, full of symbols and meanings. Nothing is repetitive, nothing is accidental. Every moment is a new expression of the divine. And what is your task? Your task is to learn how to read it. Ibn al-Arabi speaks directly to existential struggle. Now, this is where his work becomes deeply personal, because Ibn al-Arabi doesn't ignore human confusion, he engages with it. If you have ever felt disconnected from your surroundings, unsure about what your purpose in this world is, or trapped in cycles of overthinking, he would say the problem is not necessarily with your life. The problem may be your mode of perception. Now, this is a complete overlap with psychology, isn't it? Because once you start to view things from a different perspective, life becomes a bit easier, or the problem is out of your face. But in other words, he is saying that you are not seeing reality as it truly is, and because of that, everything begins to feel empty or fragmented and even meaningless. Now, his work offers a different possibility. What if meaning is not absent? It is simply unrecognized. Through this, he is bridging the gap between intellect and mysticism, or he is creating a bridge between intellect and mysticism. Most people fall into one of these two categories. They are either reliant on purely logic or reason, or they are leaning into spirituality and feeling. Rarely do the two people meet, but Ibn al-Arabi operates at the intersection. In his life, he was against philosophers, but we see that he is deeply inspired from them as well. He builds an incredibly complex intellectual system. He discusses metaphysics, he discusses theology and the nature of knowledge, and at the same time, his insights come from direct spiritual experience. Now, this is what makes him unique. You're not just reading abstract philosophy, and you're not just reading emotional spirituality. You are encountering a framework that tries to unite both. Ibn al-Arabi is redefining the person, because one of his most profound ideas is about the self. We usually think about ourselves as fixed, independent, and clearly defined. At least we aim to do so, but he is challenging all of that. He is suggesting that human being is more like a mirror reflecting divine attributes. And this means that your identity is not limited to your role or to your achievements or to your failures, but it is far more deeper. And the growth is not about becoming something new, it is about becoming more aware of what you already reflect. So, he gives meaning to imagination. In modern thinking, imagination is often dismissed as fantasy, something unreal. But Ibn al-Arabi is introducing this idea very differently. He speaks of an intermediate realm, something which is known as the imaginal world, and the space. It occupies the space between physical and purely abstract, and this is where dreams and symbols and visions are not mere illusions. These are meanings. These are the form of knowledge. So, what you once ignored may actually be significant. His difficulty is part of his value. Okay, let's be honest. Ibn al-Arabi, as I mentioned earlier, is not easy to read. His major works like al-Futuhat al-Makkiyah and Fusus al-Hikam, these are very dense and layered books, and they are very often difficult to follow. But that difficulty is not accidental. It is making the reader slow down and reflect and question the assumptions that exist. You cannot just skim his ideas or just go through them for the sake of his knowledge, but you have to engage with them, and in that process something shifts. So what makes him compelling? It's not just that he is giving you clear answers, it's not that he simplifies life, it's in fact that he often makes things more complex, and in doing so he opens a new dimension of understanding. He compels the reader to ask better questions, and once your questions change, your entire perspective begins to change. So if you're looking for something easy, something quick, something immediately practical, Ibn Arabi may not be for you. But if you are willing to sit with difficulty and to question deeply, or to explore both intellect and inner experience, then reading Ibn Arabi can become more than just an academic exercise, or then reading Ibn Arabi can become more than just an academic exercise.
So, in
It can
case
become
you
a
are
shift in how
interested
you
in knowing
see
about
reality or
him,
you
his
see the
life, and
world.
his work,
And once that
and his
shift
metaphysics,
happens, you may
I'll
never
be
look at the
uploading more
world the
work.
same way again.